Hi, everyone. My name is Elliot Moscowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of PrairieStreet. This is part of the media side of the company. We're in e-commerce. We sell high-end meats, and we also produce a tremendous amount of content, long-form videos, short-form videos, podcasts, blogs, magazines. So today we're taking a walk down Prairie Street. That's the name of our podcast. And I have a special guest with us, Michael Blum. So, Michael, thank you for coming.
Elliot, thank you for having me.
So, Michael and I have been kind of dealing with each other, or working together, or being friends together for like the last year.
Friends are a great word.
Friends are a great word because, as a general rule, I don't deal with people that I can't be friendly with. And
thank you very much.
I have stronger language that I would say, but not on a podcast. But in the long run, it's never worth it. You know, and we try to find good quality long-term relationships. And actually, I was introduced to you by a mutual good friend, Noah Lang. And Noah, you might know him from the Kosher Concierge, was one of the kings, the founders of building this whole concierge business for wealthy clients. And that's something that we specialize in. And I know you work very closely with him in some areas, but you're an interesting cat, and that's kind of what we try to do on this channel. And I think some people have like a normal resume or a career path that they've done one thing and they became the manager, and then they became the director, and they became the CEO, and that kind of happens. I have a pretty complicated past, but I think you do as well. Yeah. So, you know, people wonder, like, how do people get into this business and the food-related stuff? And many times it's a passion. Many times they don't know they like it. Many times they start something else and they just find themselves interesting. So what was did the light go off in your head that this is something that you want to be involved with?
You know, ever since I was, I want to say 5 years old, 7 years old, I always wanted to be around food. The bug kind of started with my dad. My dad's a physician. I grew up in Long Island. My dad's a physician. My mom was a nurse. And they were always working, but when they came home at night, it was always about the food and the family. And my dad's creative hobby didn't have a lot. He loved to swim and he loved to cook. So ever since I was a little boy, I always watched him making homemade ketchups or whatever it may be.
Wow.
He's just, you know, he was butchering. We used to go fishing in Montauk in the Hamptons every summer, or even in the fall, spring. So I just got the bug to cook, and just since a very young age, that's all that I really wanted to do.
And what kind of doctor was he?
He was a cardiologist, but he also specialized in pharmaceutical. And later on in his life, he turned himself into an expert witness, you know, working with lawyers on both sides and, you know, testifying. And it was his love, because he loved the passion, and he loved the banter between the patients. But then I watched him evolve like I've evolved, and he wanted more. So he still had his patience, but then he wanted to work with people and be able to help people and work with lawyers. And it was a nice career for him, as he still is, he's 86 years old, but he's a charismatic guy, and I love him, and he's the best.
So what were some of the things that he was on the cooking side concentrating on?
My dad was a big geek for French food. He loved the sauces. He loved garde-manger. He loved just making things look pretty. But as much as he loved it, it's something that, like if you're an athlete, no matter how hard you train, at the end of the day, you either have it in you to go to that next level. And my dad treated it as a hobby because he realized that he could never do that full time. And I think in some sort of an odd way, I think I had that light in my belly and that fire and passion, and I took it to that next level, because he was never able to do that because he was so busy with everything he was doing. And I think his passion for it kind of burned the fire in me, and that elevated me and pushed me into that direction as well.
I mean, you have to have a gigantic leap of faith to give up cardiology
exactly.
and say, I want to make sauces for a living.
Exactly. But he had the passion, and I just loved it. And then by the time I was 12, I was working in delis. Way too young. I was doing dishes in bakeries, and I was working a catering hall at the temple where I got bar mitzvah. The caterer knew I loved to do it. So on Saturdays, my mom would drop me off at 15 years old, and I would be working in the back with the guys. So it was something that I always loved to do, and it was just fun.
And I think the people that really embrace food as a career, you have to be passionate about it, because it's an extraordinarily difficult, hard business to be in. And if you were doing it, it's an extraordinarily hard business to get into. And if you're doing it, there has to be a love for doing that, and whatever aspect or niche, because there's so many elements of doing that. So you kind of took that initial passion, started experimenting, went to school, but then ended up starting a bunch of restaurants. So how did that happen?
Well, that happened. I went to college, and then my senior year, my dad says, "What do you want to do with the rest of your life?" And I'm like, "It's a good question. You know, all parents are going to say that to a 21, 22-year-old kid." And I said, "You know what? I have my degree from the school, but I said I really love to cook." So my dad said, "What's the best culinary school?" So at the time, maybe still is, but at the time it was the Culinary Institute of America in upstate New York. And I happened to know someone.
Just for a second, when chefs in the beginning, I started getting into this, and they said, "Oh yeah, I worked at the CIA." I go, "Whoa, that's a really big change, more than cardiology to cooking."
I get that, all the CIA when you don't know, but
right.
The thing was, now the school has multiple locations around the country, but when I went in 1989, 1990, I graduated. It's a 21-month program, and it was before the Food Network. It was before it was chic and cool to be a chef.
Right.
And the only way to get into the school at the time, ironically, was you needed a letter from a past graduate. And it was, it wasn't like it is today where it was open up to everybody. So ironically, there was a bar in college, and the bar was called Dirtbags, and it was the coolest place. But the guy that owned it, I found out down the road that he had gone to the CIA, and he opened this bar he was a corporate chef for Hilton all throughout Europe. And after 20 years, he was in his mid-40s, hanging out with 18 and 20-year-old. He started this bar, and he left his entire profession, took his life savings, and opened a bar in Tucson, and we became friends, and he wrote the letter for me, and that's how I got into the school.
It seems like there's, as we say in Hebrew, a chut kashur, which means the thread that connects between people that I hang out with. They all have this like craziness, like this party, like, I worked on Wall Street, I used to trade billions of dollars, and all of a sudden I'm running like a meat company. Like, how does that exactly happen? We don't know, but I think there's this thing that we see things that maybe people don't see, and have this desire to make an idea real, which involves getting down to the details and making all those things happen. And when you're doing something that's uncharted territory, like I think what we're doing and what you're doing, that changes everything. But you have to be willing to fail and experiment and put your emotions at the door and say, this wasn't a good idea, but what can I learn from that for the next idea?
You hit it on the head. Exactly. And I think there's two types of chefs in this world. There's a chef that'll graduate school and he'll get a job in the corporate world, whether it's food photography, but that's their wheelhouse, and they run with it. And like you said, they'll start here and they'll go to a manager, they'll go to a supervisor, maybe ownership at some point in time. But what I realized was I like to draw outside the lines, and that's how I'm sure you have, you've evolved. And they're in the end. So the first chef is someone that will go to school, that will learn, and they stay in their lane. But what I like to do, as I said, you get one chance to do this. So I didn't want to just do one type of food, whether it's Italian or whether it's French or be in the restaurants. So little by little, I learned what I could learn, and I think it's all about a curve. And honestly, I have failed 1,000% more than I've succeeded. Doesn't mean I've never succeeded. It means the failures have keep teaching me to grow and grow and grow. And like a lot of people who have a lot of wisdom will say is all you have to be as right as once. And
Right.
that's where I'm going. I'm trying to learn from my mistakes and start businesses and grow businesses and different concepts and keep evolving as a chef and as a person and as a human being and keep going. And it's not that I'm never satisfied with what I'm doing. I just feel like I have so much to offer and I want to just take it in baby steps. But the one thing with age has taught me is that it's time to slow down a little bit, learn more from your mistakes, but be able to keep growing and learning and then teaching others and working with others.
Absolutely. And actually, the metrics that you're missing is saying, okay, 1,000 failures or 200 success. But the question is, how bad are those failures? And if they're quick failures and they're little things that are more nuanced versus catastrophic, some people get. So probably the most important thing I ever learned in trading on Wall Street is learning how to say you're wrong like multiple times a day, a week, a month, and sometimes just parking an opinion you've had for a year and a half and completely changing on the dime. And that's been something that we've been doing the whole time. There wasn't really a formula for building this. I don't really know anybody in our space that's spending the amount of resources and capital and time to building content that's super high end from the get-go, but it's kind of hand in hand. And COVID accelerated this concept of what an at-home experience is. So it's not just going to an office and then going to a restaurant and never seeing your family. Probably a big reason why the push back to the office is struggling, because people realize what is the quality of the life, and do I really need to spend an hour on a train each way to sit in a cubby, to wear a suit, to stand in line for lunch and look at a computer all day? Right. So it's interesting of how all those things are changing. And one of the areas that we specialize is working with private chefs, because the way wealthy people took vacation has changed as well. They don't want to be with hundreds of people. They want to be with 15, 20 people in a villa. And
you hit it right on the head, because I know a big portion of your business and a big portion of whether it's my business or any private chefs that work, especially in the kosher and Orthodox community, they used to go to these large events where they would cost them tens of thousands of dollars. And now what's happening is there's families of maybe 2 or 3 families. Each one has 8 or 10 people. So they'll rent a big mansion, a big house, and they'll bring 30 people in. They'll bring 1 or 2 chefs in. And now it's more about individuality. And it's not so much about being with 500 people. It's being with the people that you love the most. And especially with what you're doing, and your meat products are extraordinary. I've done events with Noah and other chefs, and you've sent meat out to Colorado or Big Sky, Montana, and you've sent product all over to chefs, and that's the beauty of being in the private chef world. And it was just one of those ways that I was able to evolve from being in the restaurant, because what they don't teach you in culinary school is to be a chef, you have to be a maniac. The hours, I mean, there's no 40-hour work like that. The auto people who are on strike right now, they want to get paid for 40 hours, but only work 32. In the chef world, it's 60 hours, 70 hours. It's nonstop. And you never see your family. And you have to work when everybody wants to play. So it's every Friday night, every Saturday night. It's, it's New Year's Eve. It's the holidays. So getting into the private chef world was a blessing in disguise for me, because it brought me back to family, and it brought me back to who I really want to be, which is a chef that has his passion again in cooking with people in their homes, just like your product. I mean, it's a labor of love what you do. And when you walk into someone's home, whether it's a $10 million home or just an apartment, it's a labor of love. They're inviting you into their world, and it's a wonderful experience.
It is absolutely a wonderful experience, and that's what... and that's part of, like, when we set up on here, it's, our outdoor kitchen is amazing. We have, we have smokers, we have grills, we have Argentina asado, we have charcoal grills.
You're a crazy man, because I've been to your house for several events, and we recently, maybe 2 months ago, we did an event, and you had 100 people in your community.
Yeah.
But there was food for 300. Yeah. And how many different cuts of meat did we do? Maybe 8 or 10 different cuts. And braised, grilled,
and
roasted.
I scaled it, like starting at 4. So it all converged at the same time. That was kind of cool. And yeah, but that's a lot of the filming we do here. Is there's so much technology and different methods into how things are made that we're covering different personalities and different methods. So whatever method you're comfortable in, whether even an Instant Pot or air fryer, we're showing that to you. And I think that at-home experience is much more of a family experience versus someone going into a big 300 or 400 people and they're in a thing that they don't really feel, and the privacy matters as well, and this is much more custom. So I think those experiences are for life, and they have much more. I always joke, I said these people that go on the Passover programs and they're spending tens, $20,000s of dollars to come in, I said the pricing model is wrong because their job is to feed you like you're a Holocaust victim, like you've never eaten in your life, and you get 5 meals a day. They should just weigh everybody on the way in and charge them like $1,500 a pound on the way out, because people are going to breakfast, lunch, full dinner, 5 courses, tea, midnight tea, taking back to the room in
100%. And and this is the funny thing. Part of one of the best holidays for private chefs in this world is Passover,
for sure.
because Passover it's not like Rosh Hashanah, it's not like a Shabbat dinner, 2 days and you're done. Passover, a family or families will hire you for the 12 days, 14 days, whatever it may be. And the nicest thing about it for me is that I like to be at a home every morning at 6:30, 7 o'clock, because I'm doing breakfast, and then we'll do a lunch and kiddush in the afternoon, and sometimes the dinners are at 8, sometimes they're at 10 or 11 at night. But it's nice because when people would go to these large gatherings, these big, huge events, it would cost millions of dollars to put on, and it would cost, it's a circus in a way. And you said it's a free-for-all with food. We have to feed you, and you'll get in line, you get off the line.
And also the quality. I mean, we don't really, in general, do things for super large events because there's no way to control the quality and something like that. You're serving 500 people something for dinner.
And the nicest thing is when you have a chef that comes into your home and you are using, your high-quality meats or vegetables from a specific farm, no matter where we are. I mean, sometimes I'll go to Michigan, I'll go to, California, Texas. But at the end of the day, the people are in control of the event. Like there are times I'll say, look, I'll see you at 7 o'clock. They say, no, please come at 10 o'clock tomorrow. We want the morning to ourselves. And that's the beauty of having someone in your home. And more importantly, that's the beauty of being able to have a boutique product like yours, because you're not equipped, nor do you really want to produce 10,000 sides of beef. You want to produce, quality more than quantity.
Right, and we specialize in dry age. Pretty much people don't do that. So the chefs are teaching me all the time of custom ways they want things cut, and we learn from that and we accomplish that. So for instance, instead of veal chops, one of my chefs loves veal paillard and likes it pounded. So I said, well, why don't I just send you 20 veal chops and you pound them? He goes, I don't have that half hour to do that. So we did it. And for this client, and we did 50 or 100 at a time because they're always offering it. Some people like a ribeye bone in; they like the bones tied back. I'm a fan of that because I actually like the inside of the prime rib to be medium rare, but I like the bones to be well done. By the way, you saved me the other day, and we worked out a solution. So I was making like a 14-pound boneless ribeye roast. It was a beast.
I remember.
And it was on the smoker. And I knew I timed it right, and I pre-salted it the night before. Everything was cool, but the outside 3 pounds were like at 120. I was getting ready to pull it with carryover, but the middle was at like 105. And
it was still raw.
It was raw. Even for people that want things almost walking, it was too raw, and I didn't know like what to do. And you told me what theoretically I could have done to alleviate that, but then what I've learned in working on this and working with chefs and methods, we mixed and matched on this ANOVA sous vide, and all I did was took it off, set this. You don't even need a cryovac bag and water's on the
Just
side.
a big Ziploc
set
bag?
it in. You don't even need a Ziploc bag with this sucker.
With this one in
with this
particular,
one, you
yeah.
just open it. The water chamber's at the side, and I just set it at 122 for 2 hours. And when I came in, everything was like edge to edge.
perfect.
So instead of, I think that's what a lot of people are learning from our education. Then instead of saying, here, we're taking a recipe and we're OCD on steroids and we have to follow every single step of what that looks like, that you can take this or this. All of a sudden, like last Friday, I wanted to have soup, but I was jammed up. Usually it takes 5 hours to make chicken soup. We did it in an Instant Pot, and I was done in 80 minutes and stuff like that. So it's kind of taking all the tools that you have and using them to make things, instead of more complicated, less complicated.
100%. And I know you don't sell chicken in particular, but there was an event where you had a lot of kids.
Right.
And I showed you the trick with the chicken wings. And we made 10 pounds. If we had 30 pounds, it wouldn't have been enough. Do you remember how we did those?
Yeah, you boil them first, and to make it
seasoning.
edge to edge, which to me is similar to sous vide concept. And what did I tell you after we made them? I said, that's a video. And the next time we filmed, I brought you on camera, and I think we got like 20,000 views on that. And that's become my standard go-to, because the coolest thing about boiling it first and you're cooking it edge to edge, you can have 10 different flavor profiles after the fact that you want to do that. But you know, and so many times people make it that the wings outside are crusty, but the inside it's pink and not cooked. And that's not cool with chicken.
No, not at all.
It's not like having medium rare and steak. So when we learn something, we just run with it. And that's part of the reason, like on our videos, you see these tips that fly out, because we're telling you, someone's giving you like gods of wisdom. Like I remember when we were filming the other day, and I was saying to you, go slower, because I kept on seeing every 10 seconds these tips, like, wow, that's brilliant information.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, that was something that I was doing an event maybe about 5 years ago.
Right.
And I was doing a kosher event, and it was a big event. We had about 65, 70 people. It was a Sunday afternoon, and it was a pool party. But there was a lot of people at this one home. And the funny thing was, I made a mistake. The kids wanted chicken wings, and I flubbed up. I forgot to get, it was so much going on, and someone was supposed to help me. They didn't show up. So I'm realizing the party's supposed to start at 2 o'clock and it's 1:30. I'm like, oh my God. The chicken wings it was 25 pounds of chicken wings still in the fridge. So what did I do as a chef? I found 3 pots. I went to the meat side. I put the pots with water. I boiled them and I threw them on the grill. And I said, this was unbelievable, because before they even hit the grill, they were already cooked and the meat came right off the bone. And I threw some of them in buffalo sauce, some of them in some olive oil and rosemary. And like you said, we had 3 or 4 different flavors of wings. 30 pounds of wings we cooked in 25 minutes. And it was great.
You probably could do the same thing with sous vide, right?
Yeah, the sous vide is a specific temperature and it takes a specific amount of time. But with the chicken wings, you don't care, because no one's going to have the chicken wings medium rare.
The way it is, right.
So I was in a pinch, and as a chef, the reason why chefdom, I call it chefdom, is not good for everybody is because you really have to think sometimes very fast. It's like think or die. I mean, you have a full restaurant and you're running behind. You have to find creative ways to get food out, because what the customers don't care at the end of the day about how it's cooked. What they want is they want it to taste good and look good. So if you have to rush the process, but they're getting it on time and it's delicious and it looks great, no harm, no foul. So the hardest thing about being a chef is you always have to be on your game. You can't ever not be on your game.
For sure. And I think one of the things that I'm really proud of that we teach so many personalities and methods is people get a hang and say, we're teaching you concepts. It's kind of like art a little, that you're being able to take this and that. And, I have a pretty strong photography background. I
I didn't know that.
I shot professionally. I bought my first professional camera when I was 12 years old for my bar mitzvah.
You really are a man of all trades. You've been through a lot over the last 30 years or so.
So, yeah, I've also been on a very interesting path that doesn't make sense. But, I did my first wedding when I was 15. I was the only kid in yeshiva that had a camera of any kind and stuff. So it's been interesting to watch how things evolve and the technology. But I think what I'm most proud of is that people can say, okay, you're jammed up, but you're used to sauteing something in, let's say, a Le Creuset, and you're going to make a braised short ribs or something like that. But now you're out of time. You only have 2 hours. Okay, do the same thing in an Instant Pot. Saute them, get it done, put the things in, press the button, an hour later, you're good to go. It's going to be fork tender. So I think that's what we're trying to do, is teach people to not do things by rote. I'm old school. I still have 200 cookbooks because I like to learn and mix and match, and I think you can learn deeper. But you on camera, you behind the camera helping me with this. You also have a butter business that you're starting right now that's pretty significant.
The butter business is very unusual. The school that I went to, it's French. It's Escoffier. It's an Escoffier-based school. Escoffier is the father of all French cuisine. So that was the foundation of it. But in the French world, in the 20s and 40s and 70s and 80s, it was all butter-based sauces. So the one thing that they teach you in culinary are these compound butters.
Right.
Compound butters is you take a butter, usually add parsley or tarragon or rosemary, some sea salt, and you roll it up and you slice it and you put it on top of a steak or finish a sauce with it. And that's what gives it its velvety texture. But like most chefs and like you, we're all a little unhinged and we all like to do things a little bit differently and be very creative. I said, you know what, if I could do 2 or 3 flavors, why can't I do 60 flavors? So about a year ago, I started right after the pandemic and then I had some free time on my hands. So I started creating, what kind of butters can I create? How about some fiery Cheetos? And I grind those up and I do a fiery Cheeto butter, or pistachio or arugula butter, or pumpkin spice with salted caramel. So I made 15 butters, and my wife said to me, what, 15's not enough? Now you're going to do more. So I made 30 butters, and I made 50. At one point, I had 2. I went to Brandsmart, and I got little freezers for the driveway outside. And she once said to me, can't you be normal? Can't you just make 20 butters? How about 30? Do you need 70? So I came and I said, baby, you can never have enough butter. So that's the new name of this company that I started. It's called Never Enough Butter. And we have 60 flavors of butter. Not all at once, but we've created 60 different flavors. And what's so unique about it is we're just about to launch it. And we have individual portions for portion control, and we'll have a 4-ounce container for supermarkets.
It's amazing.
But the unique thing about it is that it has taken on a life of itself. And there's so many opportunities because you go to the supermarkets and they have all these different flavors of cream cheeses, all the different flavors of yogurts and chips. And I think one thing that I've been able to develop as a chef is not trying to reinvent the wheel. The nice thing is just see what is out there in the marketplace, what these big companies have already invested their time and effort.
Flavor profiles.
So what I did was I've seen it forever and a day, but I'm starting to see everything with buffalo flavor. So I said, what would happen if I took buffalo sauce with blue cheese? So we did a buffalo blue butter. And you put this butter on chicken, you put it on a steak, it just explodes. We have a pistachio and arugula. We make a pistachio cream and fresh arugula. I mean, you puree that. So it can be as refined as you want. We make a brown butter, so bakeries can now do a brown butter cake or a brown butter cookie. But I have to tell you, it's opened up a world of opportunity because some friends of mine who now I'm in business with, I approached them last year. This was last November, and I said, let's just go to a country club. They primarily sell all these little.
Wow.
They sell these. They have accounts with all these major country clubs up in Palm Beach. So I said, let's go, and he says, okay, you're a chef. Don't be a crazy man. don't bring 70 flavors of butter. So of course, I didn't bring 70. I brought 40 flavors because chefs by nature, we're maniacs. We always want the new item that could help us create. And coming from a chef, I knew that this product would help them, but I couldn't tell my potential business partner this because I didn't want him to say, no, don't bring 40, just bring 10. So I surprised him. I showed up, I met him there. We walk in and he is like, really? Really? I said, trust me, just trust me. So we went into, I'm not going to mention the names of the country clubs, but very, very high-end clubs in Palm Beach. And we walk in and I lay out all the butters all over the tables. And the chefs went nuts. When I tell you, I had banana Foster butter. We had a Bloody Mary butter. One of my favorite butters, one of the new hot flavors was Nashville hot sauce, chicken and waffles. So I took waffle cones and crumbled them up, put them in a bowl, put the unsalted butter in, and then Nashville hot sauce with sea salt. And then I gave them a Nashville hot waffle butter, and they put it on pancakes. We did a cinnamon chipotle honey butter, put that on pancakes, and waffles and French toast. And the chefs, I kid you not, the chefs said, we'll take 2 cases of every one. But of course, we weren't prepared. It was just to show them. So the funny thing was, my potential business partner then, who was not interested, he just wanted to appease me. But I knew what would happen if I got these items in front of chefs and sous chefs and creative people in the country clubs. So we went in, and then I said, what do you think? He goes, I'm very, very intrigued, but you know what? I don't think it's something we're involved with. He was going on vacation on a cruise with his wife. It was over New Year's, Christmas, New Year's. He came back on a Tuesday. Wednesday morning, I got a phone call because he was getting text messages from the country clubs. When can we have the butters? So he realized there was a little bit more to it. So then what I did was, because knowing that we can't mix, obviously, dairy with your delicious meats, it just doesn't work. So I came up with 3 vegan butters. One was a candied pecan and cranberry butter. Another one, it was all vegan butters, and we did a pistachio and arugula, which is fantastic. And I can't remember what the other one was, but so I started bringing these Parv vegan butters to people's homes, and they were going crazy. They're like, "What do you know?" So because in the kosher world, as you know, most meals other than breakfast are always meat. So if you want to be in the butter business.
So unfortunately, a lot of the butters that you're describing,
Right.
we can't use in a kosher diet because we don't mix meat and dairy.
Right.
So that's a very interesting project, and it's a very creative project. But we are discussing the vegan versions that we could get kosher certification, and that's basic French cuisine. So even in some of our videos, where some of the vegan butters have gotten higher quality, we've done basting with French cuisine, or we've done moussaka using coconut yogurt. So there's replacements. So I'm looking forward to, once you refine all that, to potentially joint distribute the kosher
100%.
kosher aspect of that, because that's what that's being about, is to keep on creating and have that sense and experience. And kind of the benchmark is, if you could serve, what my benchmark is, if I could serve something like this prepared in a kosher way to someone that might not be Jewish and has experienced this at a high level, and they say you're in the game, then we've done something.
And you know what? I go to all the kosher markets, whether it's here in New York, and as of today, there's no market for a flavored butter, but I would stay away from being a kosher butter, because kosher butters are very expensive. But a vegan margarine / kosher product that you could put on top of a steak or a piece of chicken, like you, that hopefully once we get it together and get the certification, now you can enjoy a piece of chicken, you can enjoy a piece of veal or lamb with a dollop of this
by
on top.
definition, we couldn't use a standard kosher butter. And maybe we shouldn't talk about this so much, giving people ideas, but I have a feeling with your experimentation and all the different ways that we're going to figure out even other methods that really make sense, that appeal to and are naturally consistent with the type of products. I could see, like in a veal, using something that maybe has more kick than doing something in a different type of product. And maybe there could be different versions of that. And also, to have a convenience pack size, we could actually include that with a steak or with something else, and they just add to that, and that will take something that's outrageous to the stratosphere, basically.
Well, time will tell, and
well, I'm confident in you. Yeah. So far, everything you touch turns to gold.
Well, thank you.
And I love your methods, and I love working with you, and we'll be working together a week from Sunday, and in a few weeks for the next time we're doing filming here. Yeah,
the feeling is absolutely mutual, but this is just, whether it's this butter concept or some other concept, that's the nicest thing about being a chef, is being able to take what you've done in the past and find a better method, and just try and put a different method with a different pattern to a different group and a different work environment, and you could really create anything.
So for my few hundred books on cooking that I have are related to that subject, I would say when I first got into this and started dealing with chefs and realized that you have to be a master in psychology, that there's a lot of schizophrenia, paranoia, stress, overwork, and things. Anthony Bourdain's book, Kitchen Confidential.
Crazy, man. Crazy, man.
I think it set the table. It gave me a great mindset of what that's like. And like you said in the beginning about the different kinds of chefs, there's some that are amazing behind the scenes. They could deal with all kinds of problems. You have to be a logistics expert if you're doing this in a significant way. You really have to know timing, time management, logistics, and everything. But some of those people, like, you wouldn't want to take them out of the kitchen. Like, they're specialists, they're in their own zone and that. But I think the people that can mix and match and stuff and actually learn from their clients instead of selling them and saying what they like, what they dislike, what they would do different, because I feel like we're on the same page. We have an unlimited thirst for knowledge and a lack of contentment, like, all the time. Yeah. Even though we could be satisfied and say that was good, but right away when I finish a big event or a big filming, the first thing I'm doing is thinking, how can I make that better for the next one?
And and the thing with me with cooking, I mean, I had a fantastic restaurant. I had a nice long run, and it was called Michael's Kitchen way back in the 90s and early 2000s. Where do you
get the name from?
I don't know, some chef. But I have to tell you that you have to be an absolute lunatic to run a kitchen, because, like you said, you have a 4-hour window. People don't want to come in at 11 o'clock at night. Right. People don't want to come in at 5 in the afternoon. So you have 150 seats. You have to be profitable. You have to get those seats sat, resat, and maybe another half a time to cover all your expenses. So in a 3 or 3.5 hour period, you're going to see in a 200 seat or 150 seat restaurant, you're going to do about 350 dinners. You're going to do desserts, appetizers, entrees, and to be able to coordinate that and be able to say the steak is going to cook in 20 minutes, the chicken is going to cook in 10 minutes, the pizzas are going to cook in 5 minutes, and to have 30 tickets in front of you and figuring out who needs what and which food came back, it's a lot of brain damage. It really, really is. And I mean, I don't know about you in your world, but in my world, I'm such a perfectionist when it comes to food, that if I do 300 meals right, and I just get that 1 or 2 disappointed people, it bums me out. The successes don't mean as much as the 2 failures, because I was not able to execute. And even if the customer was 100% wrong, customer is not always right, But there are times when you get that difficult customer, they're having a bad day, they want to take it out on someone, it happens to be the restaurant. You know those people, they're always out there. Probably a lot of them are your friends in some capacity, you know? But that's the difference between someone that really is on their game. They take the failures as a disappointment much more significantly than the successes, because the failures are what drives them to be successful.
Absolutely. I mean, I subscribe to that. We have, hundreds of thousands of dollars of meat, and it's not like going to a butcher store and you came to the store, hey, Michael, I'm taking care of you. We have to just make sure that by the time it gets into our inventory, that everything's as perfect as it could be. And that's something that's extremely difficult to do. And that really goes back to the sourcing and how we manufacture and how we pick and what we reject to have that consistent quality. Because I'm exactly the same way. I'm a quasi-perfectionist in the sense that I never feel I'm at perfect, but I'm always trying to improve. Today, for example, this is about our 9th or 10th podcast. Yeah. We're doing a completely different setup here of what we've done, because we're always looking to improve on that and how do we make that better. And that's why we love the feedback from everybody of what you think, what you like us to see. But I think you could appreciate that the people we work with at PrairieStreet are a cut above everybody else, that they're usually best in class. They bring something really significant about that. And I always love to understand why in the beginning people get motivated to do things. Because if you're doing it and you're just I'm an older guy, and people go, well, you have just so much passion about that business. I guess in contrast to people that are doing it just to make money, it feels more like they're mailing that in. And if you care, and I know the impact that we could have on small communities, or keeping kosher, or a consistent experience, or a more of a family experience, all those things that could be accomplished. The world's our oyster. We're healthy right now. We should go for it as fast as we can.
I wanted to mention one thing to you, that I had an aha moment at 20 years old.
Okay.
And I'm a Long Island guy, and there's a very famous musician named Billy Joel, who's a Long Island guy.
Of course. We lived 2 neighborhoods from each other.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, to this day, I'm now 57 years old. So we're talking almost 40 years, this has been my aha moment. And a chef can never take a day off, never take a night off. You can never be sick, because people are paying a lot of money. Our restaurant, even with 200 seats, we had a 3-week wait to get in on a Friday or Saturday night. It was in Hollywood, Florida here. And thank goodness we were friends with, I was very good friends with the chief of police from Hollywood Police Department, because he had to call in cops to actually navigate the traffic, because there were so many cars in valet. Amazing. But we were very blessed, and that's because I didn't take a night off. But here, this is my aha moment, because in 1986, I was in the University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. Billy Joel comes to perform at the arena there. Right. 14,000 people in the desert. And this guy, we're both technically almost 3,000 miles from home, myself and Billy Joel. And I'm watching this guy, and I was mesmerized that in the middle of the desert, almost 40 years ago, this guy was standing on top of the piano. He was jamming, he was jumping, doing backflips. And I'm like, if there's a place that this guy could take a night off and sandbag it, it would be Tucson, Arizona, playing in front of 12 or 13,000 drunk, crazy college kids. But this guy put on some show. And then a couple of years before, I had seen him in high school. And about 10 years later, the same exact show that he did for me in 1986, he did in 1984, and I saw him do in the 90s. And it just taught me a lesson that if you want to be a professional and you want to be successful, don't take days off, don't take nights off, and give your best performance every single night. Even when you don't have it in you, people are spending money to come and see you. And as you know, my name was on the door of the restaurant. They're coming in to see Chef Michael at Michael's Kitchen. And it wasn't an ego thing. Maybe it was in some capacity, but I just wanted to do my best all the time. And whether it's the butter company, and I made knishes way back in the day, it's whatever I've always done. I've always put my best foot forward, and I've always tried to take care of the people that try and make me look good. And that's how I go to sleep at night, knowing that I do my best each and every day. And sometimes I'll succeed, sometimes I won't, but at least I know that I'm giving my best shot every single time. That's how I hang my hat when I come home.
And that's what we try to do as well. And
Yeah,
I think that's why we're brothers in that respect, is that we do appreciate that and push hard all the time. And I'm very proud of the team that we have and the people that are cared about that satisfaction that should be as perfect as possible. And we take that as a personal responsibility. Someone's ordering from us and they're going to have big holiday meal. We need to make sure that without any doubt, everything is in perfection. And we teach you and we help you, we work with you. And I think, COVID taught people that time is of the essence. You can't take advantage of anything you don't know and anything you could do. And actually food in the Jewish culture and many cultures is the centerpiece of getting people together. And one of the big advantages of Shabbat is turning off the phone. And it's a totally different meal than even if you've had the best cuisine possible, but everybody's looking at their phone when they're having dinner, then you haven't been together. And I think that's something that I think our culture, as we get into the holidays, really forces us to take a break from the perpetual chaos that's around us.
It's funny because by luck of the draw, by chance, I evolved into the kosher world through some very good friends and people. I went through a divorce many, many years ago, but the thing was that in a way that was the best thing that happened to me in a sense, because it allowed me to evolve. And one thing, the reason why I ultimately gravitated towards cooking for kosher and Orthodox families, they're larger families. And I realized maybe through some failures of my own, my marriage didn't work out. But at the end of the day, I had a broken family as a younger man. Right. And I just fell in love with the community. I fell in love with how, like you said, on Shabbat, they shut the phones off, they shut the TVs off, they read books and they play board games. And it's not for everybody. But once you are in the inside looking out of that home, you can see the love between the grandparents and the parents and the respect that the kids have for their elders. And there's a lot to be said about it. And I think why I really wanted to continue it is because of the family aspect. And it just made me so comfortable to be a part. And all these families, when you're in someone's home, it's not for everybody. Just last week over the holidays, some people called me and they say, I need a chef. I said, I'm booked. I can't do it. I'm booked. And he says, I need a chef. And there were 4 or 5 chefs who are very, very talented, but I can't put certain, like you said, you can't put the round peg in the square hole. And in order to come into someone's home, you have to have some sort of a temperament, and you just can't be the crazy man chef. So it's not for everyone. But when you could find the right chef,
you have to have, I think, being comfortable. If you're in someone's home for 2 weeks straight, and you don't feel you're being treated well, or you're just considered staff, and they don't recognize all the hard work, then I think the good chefs over time, it's not just about money. They go, is this an experience that actually I would enjoy working with these people? And that's something that we're really careful about. We're not spray gunning with hundreds of influencers or other things.
You're doing it the right way.
It's just handpicked, But when I find something, I'm a leech. Like, I haven't let go of you since the time we had dinner at Street Kitchen and my good friend David's place. And
he's a fantastic chef, by the way. I mean,
he just opened another restaurant in Ventura called Street Hibachi.
Yeah.
And
he is a fantastic Korean. And when we went, what was the first, when he came out to talk with us, I'm like, you would never know he was, kosher and cooking. He's just a creative. And I kept saying, your menu looks like I wrote it, because it was so creative and so out of the box, but he was doing it on his own terms and his own style. And, very, very humble guy. And he's going to go very far.
He's going to go very far.
Very
he
far.
opened this new restaurant, Street Hibachi in Ventura. genuine Japanese clothes. They're cooking hibachi in front of you. But he's one of the most creative chefs that I've met.
He really is.
And,
Really is.
And yeah, excited to do that. So thank you, Michael, for joining us on a walk down Prairie
Thanks, Elliot.
Street.
Thank you
You're
so
amazing.
much. This was so much fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing the events that we have coming up together.
Yeah, next week.
And it's been amazing moving down here because some of my people that I've gotten close to are here as well. And being 10 minutes away from you is amazing. So thank you again.
Well,
Have
you
a
very,
great
very
holiday. To everybody, to our audience, please subscribe, comment, like, tell us what you like, engage us. We're here to help you in all aspects, from getting you top quality meat to teaching you how to use it. So have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Eat your Prairie Street. It's fantastic.